Hello everyone, it's your host, Seth, and with me today I have Noodles. Now, this is probably the most fitting collaboration topic we could really have, and this was donated for on stream, where people wanted to see me kind of start to hate on Minato. Now, you may be asking, why would you do that? Well, the problem is that for many, many years, I've kind of had the ick about Minato, and I couldn't really explain it. Now, I've been sort of a middleman with Minato. Like, I don't think he's like a Akatsuki tier, but I also don't think he's really as strong as a lot of people say he is either. Now, the ick kind of started coming from when I started hearing people saying, the reason Hiruzen's like, I can't let him get that coffin out. It's because Minato's actually, he was retconned. He used to be the most OP guy to ever exist. Hiruzen must have been his britches because Minato was just stronger than Hashirama, stronger than all of them there. And it was just retconned or, something like that, or it's actually indicative of his power level. Now, the problem with that, obviously, that anyone who has a brain would just say, yeah, no, Hiruzen's just saying, hey, getting jumped by 4 people is really bad. 3 people kind of sucks, and 4 people would be worse. So that's basically all that it means. And then later on, we just learned that Minato is just not stronger than Hashirama by any lore. Like, there's no reason for Hiruzen to think Minato's stronger than Hashirama. Minato basically has to kill himself to, stop the Nine Tails, and then maybe, they theorize, so maybe some, Uchiha, went haywire, and he had to fight the Nine Tails and an Uchiha. But from Hiruzen's perspective, he doesn't know about anybody really orchestrating anything. He thinks the Nine Tails just goes crazy and then stabs Minato and his wife. I mean, dude, Minato has to drop the eyes no, there was someone behind it. There was the orange masked man. Dude, Hiruzen just thinks the Nine Tail must have just flatlined him with a claw or something, and then they sealed him away. There's no reason that Hiruzen would ever think that Minato's stronger than Hashirama. He probably thought, no, even as an Edo, they're all probably going to be this level, and then, he's going to be throwing out flying Raijins or whatever. He's going to be annoying working with those two. And that's really about it, but this kind of, left a seed in people's brain where they're maybe Minato really was supposed to be the strongest. Maybe there's evidence for it. And while I do think that Minato has some okay showings in the war, I think that he was probably nerfed for the beginning of it. It really got out of hand to the point where they're trying to argue, yeah, no, he would bop Prime Hiruzen. He's going to box up Hashirama in Sage mode. Maybe he's faster than Sage Hashirama. He would, Dura-neg him or something. Prove Hashirama has crazy durability, can even take any attacks. And they just go absolutely haywire with this Minato scaling to the point it becomes absolutely unrealistic. Now, I kind of want to just, slander him a little bit here before we get into anything that really matters. And I want to bring up this point. So, did you guys know that Madara actually jerks off almost everyone in the war arc? So he compliments literally everyone that matters for the most part. He compliments Sasuke, he compliments Naruto, Kakashi, Might Guy. He even compliments the 5 Kage at one point, kind of. He's like, oh, this is the power of the 5 Kage. Okay, I guess I'll use some more power. And you would not even believe it. He actually compliments Itachi across the planet. That's right. When Itachi turns off the Edo Tensei, Madara even compliments Itachi across the world. Okay? And he compliments everybody in this war. I think he might compliment Gaara a little bit, maybe. I don't know, though. He compliments Gaara kind of secondhand, but I'll give you this. He doesn't compliment Rock Lee or something, okay? But the only other person he really doesn't compliment, by the way, he compliments Tobirama as well. He doesn't compliment Minato a single time. Now, what's interesting is people think Minato would beat Hashirama in a fight. They think he would beat Tobirama, they think he would flatline Tobirama in base form easily, by the way. They think it'd be easy. They think that in base form, he's flatlining Sage KCM2 Naruto. They're probably thinking he could take Sage Hashirama. And so you have this Minato who could potentially take out Sage Hashirama or Hashirama. He's way, way above Madara. He's probably Majestic Attire, Susanoo Madara level with that type of scaling. And here he is with a multiplier, okay? Now, Sage mode, it could have whatever level of multiplier. Some people say it's an arbitrary, maybe 2 times, maybe above 10 times. Who knows, right? Either way, Minato has a multiplier with Sage mode. And then he rolls up on Ten Tails Madara. And this is base Ten Tails Madara. Now, the thing about base Ten Tails Madara is I'll make an argument that Majestic Attire Susanoo Madara might be stronger than that Ten Tails form. or at least relative to it. And the reason I say that is because you need to realize that Madara's Susanoo rivals the Ninetales. It probably surpasses it a little bit because even Hashirama's base wood golem can get there. So you have Madara EMS with his perfect Susanoo, which is a Ninetales, plus the complete Ninetales fighting Hashirama. And then 10 Tails Madara, he has like one Renegon, not complete, kind of unquantifiable. And then he has like these farts of all these lesser Bijou. And then like somewhat of like of a half of the Ninetales. So realistically, 10 Tails Madara might not outscale this majestic attire or complete Madara as much as you think. And proof for that is actually in the 8 Gates Guy fight, where in the 8 Gates Guy fight, Madara would be like, you know what? You really do have the greatest taijutsu I've ever seen. But it took like all of this crazy ass beating for Madara to ever bring that up. And everyone's probably like, what are you talking about? Yeah, of course it's the strongest guy you've ever fought, right? And it's like, well, Madara's technically not going all out against 8 Gates Guy until the very end. And then 8 Gates Guy's like, Night Guy. And then he starts warping space and Madara's like, holy he starts like, he can't move basically, right? But that was before that. And so the proof of it is that, yeah, if 10 Tails Madara whips out a Susanoo, it's another like 9 Tails level amp potentially. He gets piss amped with the Susanoo, at least in his base form. So there's a lot of things going for him in that encounter. Anyway, what I'm getting at though is that Minato with a multiplier rolls up on Madara. Madara zero diffs him. Okay, he zero diffs him. It is not debatable at all. Minato is not mental nerfed. There's nothing going on in Minato's head. He's fully resolved to beat up Madara. Okay, amp beyond belief. You can't say his Sage Mode is wearing out because the first thing he does is teleport over and try to Rasengan him. Madara kicks him away, no diffs him, and he doesn't even comment on his existence. Okay? Really think about that. Madara zero diffs a guy who's potentially prime Hiruzen and Hashirama level in Sage Mode, and he doesn't comment on it. You know what he does comment on, though? Kakashi Kamui. He comments on Kakashi's ability to Kamui things instead of Minato. He never mentions it a single time. So whenever I hear this argument, I'm like, it's not narratively implied by Madara. I mean, Noodles, maybe you could back me up on this a little bit, but like, let's say it was true. Let's say Minato was Hashirama. Like, don't you think Madara would be like, wow, even like the yellow flash, like the most godlike speed, the fastest Shinobi in godlike speed, even me in this mode, I just make him look like nothing. You think he would have said anything at all, but he doesn't. He makes zero comment on anything he ever does. And I actually think that's indicative to a counterpoint because I don't think the narrative is structuring Minato to be the god of Shinobi. He never gets the title. Maybe he had the potential. I'll give you that. Maybe he had the potential, right? But did he live up to it? Well, he died too fast. That's the problem. You know, you could say whatever you want about Minato versus Tobirama or whatever the you want, but it gets to a point where you just get so absolutely just stupid with the scaling that no character in the series is supporting this accusation, really. So anyway, I've rambled on long enough, but I think that's important to say.
Yeah, and just to support kind of what you were talking about a minute ago, Madara, like, consistently compliments everyone. Like, he talks about Inoki when Inoki is, like, the first one to get up, and he uses the Will of Stone when he's lit the entire battlefield on fire and has all the 5 Kage, like, passed out on the ground, and Inoki's the first one to get up, and he, like, comments on his resilience and things like that. Like, anytime Madara sees something, like, even remotely impressive from a Shinobi, mind you, this Madara was, like, talking about the Kage as if they were literal children in front of him, so he didn't even, like, respect them that much, and he was still complimenting the Kage. So the fact that he says literally nothing about Minato kind of goes to show how bad he underperformed. And if we're making, like, a comparison between someone like Hashirama, Tobirama, or Minato, look no further than how Minato dealt with 14-year-old Obito in the Nine Tails attacking the village, and how Hashirama dealt with Madara in the Nine Tails attacking the village. It's a night and day comparison. I mean, just the physical dominance that Hashirama displayed over a prepped Susanoo Nine Tails cloaked just beast, sending out like multitudes of Susanoo blade amped Biji bombs, like the sword that's stated to be able to cut anything in the universe, with the literal strongest Biju of all time, and his strongest attack like being amplified at the same time being sent out at Hashirama, and he can just casually reflect those away with wood style. His wood golem is like boxing with it on its own, and that's not even considering his true 1000 hands, which just dwarfs everything on the battlefield. It's like mountain range sized. Like, I've just never seen Minato ever perform anything like this. If you actually just look at like the kit difference between Hashirama and Minato. Minato is like a teleporting Rasengan merchant versus a literal god that can change the terrain with a singular ability in like base. And it's just unfortunate because Minato died in the very beginning of the series, so you're right that we never got to see his full potential. We only saw a Minato who was just entering his prime, and so when we're talking about like Prime Alive Hokage Minato versus Prime Alive Tobirama or Prime Alive Hashirama, it's not really that fair because we got to see Hashirama at his peak, and we never really got to see Minato at that, just to give Minato some credit. But unfortunately, every time Minato tried to fight something like the Ninetales, he got one shot. Like, he literally got swatted by the Ninetales fingernail. So on a physical level, he just does not scale to the Ninetales or these other Biju a lot of the time. His sealing jutsu is the only thing that might, but even that I don't believe is a physical scaling. So yeah, I mean, Minato self-admittedly went life and death with a 14-year-old Obito. Like, this is like a borderline preteen Obito, whereas Hashirama is battling against a prime version of Madara, like one of the strongest versions of Madara that even existed. So just the difference in power is kind of crazy.
I want to interject just because I feel like we should hammer on this real quick. People always bring up excuses. All right, Minato he's not the god like in speed. He's the god of excuses, okay? And the reason I say that, and the reason I interrupted you real quick, is because
no, you're good.
Him really jerking off 14-year-old Obito here is really kind of important for the narrative structure of the story. Once again, okay? If Minato is this Hashirama tier god-like shinobi, okay, then why is he so fretted up by this Obito, okay? He slams Obito with a Rasengan directly to his back. He lands a direct hit on him, okay? And we see this Obito piss amped in the war arc, okay? To say that he has physicals where he could box KCM2 Naruto is an exaggeration. Like, base KCM2 Naruto, he's just boxing him, like, back and forth like a Viltrumite. That's not happening. He's using Kamui. You know, he can take attacks here and there, but this is like an Obito with so much amps that he feels like he's gonna go insane, okay? And Minato, you know, you could be like, oh, well, Minato, he's a little bit nerfed versus this Obito at this point. What's with all these excuses? He uses 2 jutsu and he's too tired to function anymore? Like, what are we talking about? Does Minato not know how fatigued he is when he's fighting Obito? I feel like him talking about how scary Obito is really is kind of a big deal. Anyway, you can keep going with your point. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I felt like I don't want to forget what I had to say about that because I feel like, yeah, wait, why him talking about how OP Obito is important because he knows how strong he is.
Yeah, the first thing he admits is that Obito's teleportation surpassed his own. Like, that's the first thing he says about him. Like, when he's, like, noticing their, like, first few engagements, he literally says that he already possesses a teleportation jutsu that surpasses him. And that is Minato's entire thing. Now, that doesn't mean Minato didn't cleverly use his kunai against Obito, but in that situation, the way Minato's framing it is as if the first person who strikes is going to win the entire encounter. Like he said, whoever gets this next blow is going to win. And when he's like talking to Naruto later inside of his like mental scape during the Pain arc when he's fighting Pain, he was saying that Obito saw through every single one of his moves. And you can see this during the fight. Like, he's reacting to him multiple times. He's perceiving his movements. He's setting up traps and almost catching Minato. He blows up this like house with some paper bombs that almost catches Minato. He has like some wooden shrapnel on his leg, which again, you know, if we're looking at this feat, like, just from an open perspective, he's getting damaged by, like, a building-level attack. And we're supposed to be comparing this guy to Hashirama.
We need to hammer in on the battle IQ real quick. Hold on. Let's hammer the battle IQ. Okay, I was bringing this up on my stream, bro. There is no way. Okay, so Minato takes his child strapped with bombs. Okay, and now we know objectively, Minato has these kunai teleporters around the planet, okay? He teleports a Ten-Tails Bijou Bomb into, like, the ocean, all right? He has these kunais all over, all right? He has emergency kunais. So he has his child strapped with the bomb, and he teleports him into a house that's going to blow up with shrapnel, and then he his pants that he gets hit by shrapnel, which, by the way, damages him, but he's supposed to be like this mountain, obliterating like deity with just bare movements or whatever. And then that scene right there just goes to show his battle IQ really isn't as high as people say it is. Even when you see him as an Edo Tensei, you could say he's a little bit off kilter, but the way he fights, it's almost like he's kind of giving me these vibes. You don't know who he is. It's kind of giving me Kashimo vibes from JJK, where it seems like his whole reputation is like him fighting bums, bro. Like he has no high tier battle experience whatsoever. It's to the point where Hiruzen at like 70 years old, whatever, is like, yo, Minato, get the f out of the way, bro. And then like Naruto and Sasuke are like, what's going on? And then Minato's like, oh, this must be his battle plan. Damn, Tobirama thinks quick. He's not like, oh, I'm so depressed about my wife and my student, I can't think. He's like, damn, Tobirama thinks fast. And it's like, yeah, no, maybe Tobirama wouldn't have teleported his baby into like a shack that would have blown up with shrapnel, when it went off, and then like tried to dive out of the way. Like, I don't know. I'm really not too impressed with Minato's battle IQ like 90% of the time. Even when he tries to even juke like Killer B at one point, and then Killer B's like, yeah, I knew you were going to teleport behind me. And like, apparently Minato is this godlike shinobi. And then, dude, Killer B was going to double KO him, like with like one attack. Like he read Minato like when he was like a teenager. And then like, that's not even prime Killer B. Killer B goes through like crazy training and like way surpasses that later. And then this is supposed to be like god of battle IQ and strategy Minato. And he was just gonna go blow for blow with like Kid Killer B. Like
the same Killer B that like actually saved the Raikage and intercepted Minato, like slapped him, like sent his tentacle like across the battlefield and like intercepted him before he could even like just stab down on the Raikage. Like just think about the sheer like movement difference that they had to like accomplish there. Killer B like verbatim reacted to him twice, so it's not
by the way, Killer B downplay. His battle IQ is insane. People need to talk about it a bit more. He's actually the GOAT, but
he's just always relevant through the war too. Like there's never a point where he's not useful.
Right, and imagine if he had like a Ninetales himself, like he would have been nutty. But
yeah.
That being said, really, there's not a lot going for Minato. Like there's some people will try to say, oh, well, because he's the Hokage, he's stronger than Hiruzen from 13 years ago. Hiruzen 13 years ago was like going full aggro on the Ninetales. And don't get me wrong, I do think Hiruzen goes full aggro on the Ninetales. I think he shoves him out of the village with Enma. I think he is going full aggro because otherwise, why is Enma saying, hey, why are you being defensive versus Orochimaru? He clearly wasn't being defensive against the Ninetales. But I think that is more akin to Hiruzen's more offensive ability. But something you could say is that even if Minato was just vaguely faster than Hiruzen, which I think the data book does say Minato's probably faster than him, he doesn't need to be stronger than Hiruzen to be the strongest shinobi, because in Naruto, the strongest shinobi could just be who would win in a fight. So, like, you have Minato, who's, like, a little bit faster than Hiruzen, or even able to react to him. He's able to teleport around. Hiruzen's, like, he gets tired too fast, and that's why Minato could be stronger. But it doesn't mean Minato's like, oh, yeah, this means Minato's full Ninetales tier in terms of offensive capabilities, because Hiruzen as an old fart is. It just means, no, Hiruzen probably just doesn't have the stamina to deal with someone like Minato or something like that. I think also people are kind of exaggerating the Hokage title, meaning you're the absolute apex predator of the village or whatever. I think Hiruzen is just properly retired at this point. I don't think he's even really being considered a shinobi at that point in the story. But yeah, I don't know what you think about that.
I think there's an argument to be had that, like, at any given time, there could be a shinobi that's actually stronger than the Kage of their village. But for some other kind of political reason, they end up not being the Hokage. This is, like, shown with Jiraiya, where the elders actually sought out Jiraiya to be the Hokage after Hiruzen's death, but they ended up going with Tsunade because Jiraiya refused to be the Hokage. He wanted to still spy on the Akatsuki and travel around, so just for, like, a completely separate reason, he didn't end up even becoming the Hokage. And, like, even in the case of, like, Killer B and the Raikage, Killer B actually won the lariat clash between the Raikage and himself. So there's an argument that, like, Killer B, like, as he's going through the war, you know, there's, like, times where he tanks attacks from the Ten Tails, there's times where he's, like, holding back the Ten Tails BG Bomb. I mean, there's a real argument that Killer B is stronger than the Raikage during the war arc, despite the Raikage having this supposed strongest title. So yeah, there could be a reason that they are the strongest, it could be a reason, but it's not necessarily the case. There's always the possibility of some caveat being in the way. I also just think that, like, in general, Minato in particular was selected because Hiruzen was being looked down on at the time by the village. The village didn't like Hiruzen's decision-making when he was the Hokage. And so there's like a direct statement that Hiruzen stepped down because he was so unpopular. He's like a presidential candidate that's like, all right, guys, you know what? My vice president, since he's way more popular than me, I'm going to let him come up and take the stand. And then the crowd, like, goes wild, right? Like, that's basically the Minato-Hiruzen dynamic. It's verbatim, just that Hiruzen made some unpopular decisions, and he decided to step down and let Minato take the reins because he was the new young prodigy, the war hero that, like, saved the village and defeated a nation by himself, you know? So, it's not necessarily that he's the strongest by any means. I mean, just consider the fact that Hiruzen's actually able to physically throw the Nine Tails out of the village, whereas Minato can only, like, teleport him out. You know, he has to use a jutsu to do so. And strongest can refer to your jutsu in general, too. Like, your overall jutsu capabilities can totally factor into your strength, your intelligence can factor into your overall combat ability. So, there's a lot of factors that go into being the strongest ninja in general. So I don't think it's necessarily just this definitive Minato was stronger than Hiruzen at that time.
Yeah. So and like I said, you know, it's not cut and dry. And also, even if for whatever reason, let's say there was the mystery data book from like novel 18, you know, that was only released in Korea or something, you know, that we don't know about. You know, even if that is stated, once again, I'll just go back to a shinobi that can defeat another shinobi is considered stronger, irregardless of AP, durability, or anything else. If Minato is even like 0.1% faster and he can land, I don't know, some type of ceiling jutsu or just dodge Hiruzen until he gets tired, who knows? Maybe Hiruzen can throw like 5 combos and he gets too tired to function at full power. Who knows, right? It doesn't mean that Minato's the same AP, durability, anything of the sort. It's not even relevant. And that's my final stand on that, to be honest. I think people upscale Minato using Hiruzen too often. And in fact, I don't think the lore of the village actually supports it either, because Minato is the most relevant Hokage in the statement that Hiruzen is known as the strongest Hokage, meaning that everyone knows that Hiruzen in his prime, or when he was younger, was probably stronger than Minato, and probably Tobirama. And then they think maybe Hashirama was a fairy tale or something like that. That's debatable, but Tobirama and Minato are too fresh on the mind to be mistaken in that statement. Every Jonin, everyone that knows them, they all say that Hiruzen is stronger than him. So to say that, like, Minato is like the god of Shinobi compared to even Prime Hiruzen, Prime Hashirama, I'm not feeling it at all. I don't think the statements match it up. I don't think the narrative matches it up. I don't think the feats match it up. It's always just excuses upon excuses because they feel like Minato aura farmed on a child when he, like, tricked him with his flying Raijin, you know what I mean? Which, by the way, that child tanked his Rasengan off guard. You know, people forget that.
In that scenario, also,
off guard Rasengan. Yeah.
And that in that scenario, he actually thinks he won too. Like, Obito is so close to tagging Minato in that situation. He literally says, "I gotcha." Like, he's literally like a millimeter away from actually beating Minato. Minato says, whoever gets the next, like, shot wins, right? So it's literally coming down to, like, the wire against 14-year-old Obito. And honestly, that serves more as an anti-feat than it does promote him in any way. Because later on, I mean, if you just look at, like, the power cliffing from this point to the war arc, it's insane. Like, just think about all the buffs that Obito has achieved over this time. He's mastered his Mangekyo for, like, decades since that point. He's got a Rinnegan. He's, like, 1v3ing, like, mastered KCM Naruto, gated Guy, Kakashi, like, all at the same time, and Minato's over here being compared to the 4th Raikage, and KCM won Naruto in speed consistently on, like, 4 different statements. So it's, like, pretty hard to just look at this guy and then say he could compare to someone like Madara or Hashirama, as if Madara didn't, like, blitz Tobirama, who was tagging incomplete Jubito, as if Madara didn't just instantly wipe the floor with a KCM2 Naruto clone as soon as it approached him. You know, these are characters who were just shown to have better speed feats than, like, a live prime Hokage Minato. Minato is the only reanimated Hokage that gets turned into a paraplegic during the war arc. He's the only one. And I know there's a narrative reason for that. You know, Kishimoto was, like, having problems with his father at the time. But if you're just comparing that from, like, a power scaling perspective, it still just looks really bad that, like, nobody else, you know, had that happen to them. It was only Minato. And if you just look at, like, how he performed against Jubito, I mean, Tobirama was the GOAT of that encounter. He far outperformed Minato. Hashirama was, like, second in that situation. Minato is probably literally the bottom of the list. He was getting perception blitzed. It was terrible. And, you know, there's the argument that he was dazed and confused during that time. You know, he's like sad that Obito is like turned on him or whatever. But at the end of the day, it still just doesn't look good that like he gets this god level Ninetales amp and he's still just unable to do anything. It just looks terrible. You know, base Minato has better feats than him. You know, some people try and scale him to like Sage, Tin Tails Madara because, you know, the Truth-Seeking Orb feat, but you talked about it earlier. Tin Tails Madara bodies him when they get into hand-to-hand range. It's only this Truth-Seeking Orb that Lee, Gaara, Kakashi, literally everyone of relevance there reacts to those. So yeah, like nobody, like Gaara was losing to like Edo Madara, so let's not act like these Truth-Seeking Orbs are like insane speed or anything. But yeah, I just think overall, like, he just gets limited by the fact he literally died in the very beginning. Like, he doesn't have anything. You know, he's a teleporting Rasengan merchant with stamina issues. And, you know, some people will have problems with that too, but...
I want to bring that up. No, I want to bring that up because, you know, Minato's the god of excuses here. So, whenever the Ninetales Village attack happens, Minato has to teleport a Bijou Bomb away. I don't know, apparently he's supposed to be so strong that he can rival Hashirama in, like, AP or Jutsu. Hashirama would flick that Bijou Bomb away. He literally,
casually.
Dude, he flicks like, dude, Hashirama flicks like 1,000 Susanoo amp the Bijou Bombs from the Ninetales. 1,000, like a machine gun of them. He was smacking them. Okay. And apparently Minato's stronger than Sage Hashirama. You know, he's the strongest Kage. You know, so it's like,
somehow.
Okay, let's compare them. So yeah, Hashirama would deflect that Bijou Bomb 100%. Here's the other problem. He would do it low effort. People
and he wouldn't run out of chakra from it.
His golem would come out of the ground and would catch it at worst, and he would lose 0 stamina from that encounter. But then I'm supposed to believe, yeah, Minato, he has to open up this big old gate, and then now he's at like 10% power. I just don't buy it, dude. Like, I don't buy this. And then Minato's like, huh, who's behind me? He flicks around and tries to stab Obito. Obito reacts to him. That's supposed to be Prime Minato that he reacted to right there. So Obito reacts to Prime Minato randomly flipping around trying to cut his head off. That Minato's not that nerfed yet, or is it 10% Minato because he opened up the gate? You know, like, how nerfed did this gate make Minato, man? I want to know, what is the god of excuses really? What are the numbers, Kishimoto? Give us the power level drop from him using this one jutsu. I need to see, like, I need to have my scouter on and, like, observe Minato's power level dip to, like, 1% after this jutsu or something. Like, I need to know, because Obito's reacting to his prime attack, like, out of nowhere.
Why didn't he just Rasengan it? Like, you know, just, like, knock it out of the village.
And dude, we need to bring up the prequel, man. The prequel's insane because they think that, like, fucking teenage Minato can, like, clash Rasengan with Prime. Dude, okay, so Prime Minato has nothing to deal with this Bijou Bomb, even though he's been training to deal with this Ninetales forever. Let's go over the prequel. Go over the prequel.
Okay, so I have a bunch of points labeled out about this, but basically in the original in the Minato manga, which is like a prequel to Naruto, Minato basically has an encounter with Kushina when the Ninetales is about to go on a rampage. And Kushina goes into either her version 1 or version 2 state, I'll have to check, but goes into one of those forms and slaps Minato with a tail. Like, casually just, like, slaps him, like, one time with one of the tail strikes. Bloodies him up, like, completely has him, like, bleeding out of his mouth. He actually gets, like, physically damaged by it. Very clearly is getting, like, bodied by a fraction of the Ninetales' overall power. Physically, in the real world, getting bodied by it. Then he uses a sealing jutsu on Kushina, and this is the same sealing jutsu that he would later seal the Ninetales inside of Naruto later in part 1. The problem with this is that people think that the sealing jutsu scales to the physical world. Because the Ninetales says, you know, he's like augmenting this jutsu, and then they show the battle inside, and they're inside the mental plane, the spiritual chakra plane of Kushina. And they're like fighting the Ninetales inside there. What people don't realize this is an intangible spiritual realm in nature. It doesn't inherently scale to the physical world. This realm is just a depiction or a visual representation of the sealing jutsu that Minato is performing. Like when he starts to do this jutsu, the first thing the Ninetales says is he's augmenting the 4-pronged seal. I can't believe a shinobi of this caliber exists since the era of Hashirama. I know that's not what this Viz translation says, but that's what it actually says in the Japanese kanji. It doesn't say that he's actually sealing something like to the same level of Hashirama, just that he can't believe there's a Shinobi that exists since the era of Hashirama. It basically putting him in the same category of ceiling as someone like Hashirama or Tobirama or potentially even Hiruzen, which is still a good statement for his ceiling, but last time I checked, ceiling jutsu doesn't scale to your physical stats. The biggest issue that I have with this is that people say that he Rasengans the Ninetales Biju Bomb and clashes with it and beats it. There's two issues with this. Firstly, Kushina is suppressing the Ninetales with her sealing chains. These sealing chains are said in the 4th data book to be good enough to seal the entire Ninetales and its full power. And it's stated that Kushina never went on a rampage in her entire life because she was so good at sealing with this specific jutsu. And her life force was also particularly strong. So overall, she just made a really good candidate as a Jinchuriki. So her ability to seal the Ninetales should not be underestimated. She helped Minato both at this point and during the sealing with Naruto. She was suppressing the Ninetales chakra. And this is verbatim stated during the KCM training that she specifically suppresses Ninetales chakra. I know some people say that this is just her physically holding down the Ninetales. No, that's not the case. They're in a chakra plane during this. This is her chakra battling against the Ninetales. This is Minato's chakra trying to seal the Ninetales and overcome the Ninetales' chakra. In the way that you think that this would scale to the physical realm, my question would just be how? Because we saw when they physically interacted, Minato lost. Not once, but twice. He got one shot by the Ninetales the second time, when the Ninetales was actually in its full power. So to me, he does not physically scale to the Ninetales. He only has sealing jutsu that can rival people from Hashirama's era. And to be honest, Minato directly says during the Obito encounter that it's impossible to seal the full Ninetales. Well, that's pretty funny because the Ninetales was fully sealed inside of Kushina initially, and Hashirama was able to seal the Ten Tails with his deity gates, and that's stated in the data book as well. So to me, it's like if Minato himself is admitting that he can't even seal the full Ninetales, I don't understand how he would necessarily be equal to Hashirama, who is confirmably sealing down the Ten Tails. So, to me, overall, it's just not that crazy of a feat. He has help from Kushina.
People underestimate this too, but it seems like Hashirama got stronger as well after he fought Madara. Madara wasn't fully aware of his deity gates and stuff like that. Hashirama was like, oh man, you must have learned something after our fight too, or whatever. Playing Hashirama probably learned a bit more, and then that was probably never shown on a battlefield where anyone could ever learn of it, especially the Ninetales or anything like that. So that would be further proof that, yeah, the Ninetales isn't actually a good judge of Hashirama's power in terms of sealing jutsu, because all Hashirama does is, he basically the Ninetales and Madara up, and then him and his wife seal it away as well. The wife is there, and she might have, however, knowledge of sealing jutsu, and then Hashirama is implied to get even better at it. But either way, Hashirama, he does get, this deity gate power later, and that's probably why we don't see it in the Madara battle. But something I want to say about this is, for one, people like to act like this is a DBZ clash, where he's DBZ clashing with the Ninetales. For one, all he's doing is flying from above while Kushina yanks its neck down and then seals its energy. And then we have no idea how much energy she seals after this scene. And then Minato just does something. We have no idea. We have no idea if they clash and then he teleports over and then grabs its chakra or something. We have no clue how he seals the deal on the Ninetales. Now, proof that this doesn't make him Ninetales tier is for one big point, okay? The Yellow Flash, this Minato, is compared to the Raikage. This one, okay? Some people like to cope, maybe the 4th Hokage, he has a different title. Not this one. This one is the Yellow Flash that fights Killer Bee and the Raikage repeatedly. This one, on screen here, this one right here. This is the one that
doesn't land
him.
a decisive blow at all on either of them. Despite proving that he's faster, too.
He's supposed to be full Ninetales level. No, this is the one that's relative to A and his brother, okay? Data book confirmed. And the only cope argument for why that doesn't matter is because, the 4th Hokage could be different. Sure, not this one. That's not the 4th Hokage at all. That's the Yellow Flash. That's the one stated to be relative to the Raikage. There's no debate about it. So, yes, is there evidence that Noodles' interpretation is more likely and correct? Yes, because this one's compared to the Raikage in speed. Highly unlikely that he's KCM 2 level, complete KCM 2 level. Totally unlikely. So, yes, I think there's plenty of evidence for it. And, yeah. I don't think there's much else to say about that. I don't know if you have any closing points about Minato, but I think those are the big ones for me.
Teleporting Rasengan Merchant does not stack up against the literal god.
And Prime Hiruzen, who's stronger than Boruto Konohara. But yeah, anyway. Yeah, so anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed. Be sure to check out Noodles Channel. He has some content coming out. And I hope you guys enjoyed. Until next time, peace.